Philadelphia roared out to a commanding lead. They were up 27-14 at one point. It looked like this game, again, Washington was punching out of their weight class, and Philadelphia was going to walk away with this division again, walk away with this win, showed them who's the boss, et cetera, et cetera. But Jayden Daniels flipped the switch and really got after it. The Commanders won this game. He threw 5 touchdowns despite the 5 turnovers they had on offense, which should have doomed them. It should have doomed them. Obviously, your Detroit Lions, are the only other team this season to win a game after turning the ball over 5 times. That's just crazy. But sometimes it's your year. The Commanders only had 9 turnovers before this game. And so to have 5 in one game was crazy. But Saquon had a great first quarter, 7 carries for 109 yards. I think he had a 70-yard run for a touchdown. And again, he looked like the MVP. The Philadelphia Eagles looked like they were doing what they've done majority of this season, playing great defense, taking the ball away, and Saquon Barkley feeding him. They lost Jalen Hurts early on to a concussion. Kenny Pickett threw an interception a couple drives later. But after that, they looked like they settled in. He continued to do what they have been doing, feed A.J. Brown. They targeted him 15 times, only targeted everybody else 10 times. So, I guess, you know what I mean?
A.J. Brown had to love it, Richard.
I had to love it. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, Mitchell.
And you know what? This marks the return of is Kenny Pickett. Yes, he can.
Yes, he can. Kenny Pickett. Yes, he can.
Yes, he
can he throw a pick? Yes, he can.
Yes, he can.
Mitchell, you knew Kenny Pickett was going to throw a pick, but he played solid. I think after that interception, they played a lot more conservatively with him. He only threw the ball 24 times for 143 yards, the 1 touchdown, the 1 interception, only completed it to 3 receivers. And Devontae Smith had a really critical drop in this game that was uncharacteristic. That was one of those plays I'm sure he wants back that could have gave them a chance to win this game. Reed Blankenship had an interception. C.J. Gardner-Johnson had the interception, got kicked out of the game for a play. I don't really know what happened, and I don't really know if I agree with it. Nobody really explained it to me, and I gotta go back and look and see if they got a better explanation post game of what happened. But it looked like he got his helmet mushed off, and I know the ref was standing right there, so whatever he said was worthy of an unsportsmanlike penalty. But then to get your helmet mushed off and the other guy not get anything, I just didn't get that. I know life is hard enough on defensive players, and yes, I'm biased. Just like everybody, the whole world is biased for offensive players, so somebody got to be biased the other way. It's disgusting, and some of those PI calls, that's another thing. Those PI calls on Lattimore were absolute horseshit. Absolute horseshit. I'm so tired of this game getting so soft and ridiculous and people having the audacity to complain about it. Like, how are those PIs? Like, if the receiver's physical, then you have to let the DB at least defend himself from it. Don't be praising these receivers for being, oh, man, he's so physical. He's so strong. You look how physical he is at the catch point. And you see him pushing the corner in the neck and pushing him off and grabbing him by the collar. And then when the corner gets his hands off of him, you're like, oh, my God, you can't grab him. That's illegal. You can't grab him. What about him grabbing me by the neck while running his route? Because everything's acceptable for a receiver to do, but there's nothing acceptable for a corner to do. Let the boys play. Let the boys play. Or call offensive PI. If you're not going to call offensive PI, you got to let the boys play. I'm tired of these penalties that they're calling almost back to back to back, punishing corners for covering these receivers when they're quote unquote physical. And it's like, I don't know what you want them to do. You want them to stay close to him while he's getting pushed around and not grab him back. It's like, have you ever been punched in the face and then just kept getting punched in the face? And then they're like, hey, don't worry. We'll if he punches you in the face one more time, we'll say something. They're not. And it's hard to play that way. He has a team to play for. Thank God the Washington Commanders were able to come out with a win because those penalties were disappointing, to say the least.
No question about it. And Richard, I know I've followed you for for your entire career, and I too am biased. But objectively speaking, I think it's hard to argue against the fact that cornerback position is the hardest position to play in all of sports. You are expected to go against these top flight athletes that can do anything they want after 5 yards, right? They can do anything they want. They can hand fight you, they can shove you, they can do anything they want. And if you lay a fingertip on them, you're getting a flag thrown at you. It's getting ridiculous. Kudos to the Washington Commanders. And this is a huge win for them. It seemed that the trajectory of their season had plateaued, right? It was this beautiful crescendo of, oh my God, Jayden Daniels is the second coming of CJ Stroud. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, that rookie wall kind of was hit. And now to see them take this win, albeit without Jalen Hurts on the opposing side of the field. I mean, that's a huge injury. Let's not undersell that. I mean, Jalen Hurts going out impacted this game mightily. The Philadelphia Eagles had this game in control prior to that injury. And kudos to the future gold jacket wearing middle linebackers, one of the GOATs in the game, Bobby Wagner, with a huge pass breakup on Saquon Barkley late in that contest. Bobby poked that ball out. Saquon's arms was a dime to Saquon, falling to the ground. Bobby smacked it out. You got to give a shout out to one of your best buds, Rich, Bobby Wagner, keeping it rolling here with the Washington Commanders. Bias aside, I know you're buddies of Bobby's. How much fear would you have playing Washington week 1 if you are, say, the Minnesota Vikings, say, the Detroit Lions, say, the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs?
Well, you got to have a little bit of fear because the quarterback has none. And that's the thing about young quarterbacks that you gotta be careful with because they don't know any better. Older veteran quarterbacks get in there and they panic sometimes. They don't play well. They throw the game away because they're thinking too much. They're like paralysis by analysis. But young guys, sometimes, not all the time, because obviously there's young guys that go to the playoffs and go home. And it's like, hey, good try. You're a young quarterback and you learned. But if you're not playing against a really crazy elite or complex scheme like Flores or like Todd Bowles, who's going to give you a lot of crazy exotic looks in the playoffs, I give him a puncher's chance because you got a young quarterback who can be really efficient and can catch fire like he did in this game against the Philadelphia Eagles that isn't scared of the moment. You got veteran receivers, Zacchaeus, who had 2 touchdowns today. Obviously, Terry McLaurin, who can get the job done, set the franchise record for receiving touchdowns with 12 this year, but has his fifth consecutive 1,000-yard season. They can get it done. A veteran tight end and Zach Ertz, a defense that is getting a little bit better and learning to play together and got a lot better by getting a cornerback that they needed. I think they're going to be a team that if they get the right matchups, it's going to be a nail biter for one of these teams.